This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Riding along in my automobile, my baby beside me at the wheel. I stole a kiss at the turn of a mile, my curiosity running wild, cruising and playing the radio with no particular place to go.
It's time for the Fuel Savers, America's #1 show about new ideas in fuel-saving technology. Each week you'll learn about how to get more miles per gallon of fuel from your car or truck and why you should prepare now for the future. And now, fuel-saving guru and pioneer of fuel-saving genie systems, Barry Hart. Welcome everyone to Fuel Savers Radio. I'm your host, Barry Hart. Here today to enlighten you to what's in store for your driving future and what you can do to prepare yourselves for the inevitable rise in prices. Oh yes, the prices are going up, 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 up. I pass a gas station every single week on my way to the studio here, and I can remember the very beginning of the month when I was saying prices have definitely got to go up. Prices were still kind of hanging steady at about $3.18 a gallon. Well, I passed that same station today, $3.51 a gallon. $3.51. So we're looking at about 25 days, 17 cents, about a penny, 1.2, 1.3 cents a day is what they're doing. They're raising the prices up. Now, I don't understand it. I've asked everyone I know in the oil industry, except the oil executives, and they'll lie to you anyway, so why even bother to talk to them? So, I ask everybody I can. Typically, if you buy product X at $1, and you have to sell it at $1 plus to make a profit on it. Now you take out all your overhead prices and everything else, that might be $2 before you make a decent profit on it. With oil and gasoline, doesn't seem to be the same somehow, some way. I don't really understand it. Since the beginning of the year, January 1st, the price of a barrel of oil was $103.51. And guess what's happened since January the 1st? It's gone down. It closed below $99 on Friday. Yet, the price of gas continues to go up. If you've been listening to the show, you realize that on Halloween last year, the price of a barrel of oil was $78.76, and the price of a gallon of gas was $3.63. So, during the course of that November-December, the price of a barrel of oil went from $76 to $101.10 a gallon, but the price of gasoline dropped from $3.63 down to $3.17. Nobody can tell me. It seems that it's so complicated and so compartmentalized as to who does what that affects the prices out there. No one individual can even tell you when, how, or why the prices fluctuate like they do. One thing we know for sure. If the price of a barrel of oil hits $120, $130 a barrel, we're going to see $4.50 and $5 a gallon gasoline. So that's all I have to say on that. Those of you who are listening to the show for the first time, I'm founder and CEO of Fuel Genie Systems, a technology that injects the power of hydrogen into your vehicle, allowing your car or truck to run cleaner, cooler, more powerful, giving you more miles per gallon. Now, this technology is not new, but the components of the Fuel Genie system are. Over the past 4 years, our company's developed a way to add hydrogen to engines without storing any hydrogen anywhere on the vehicle. It's a system called HOD, or Hydrogen on Demand. You see, with Fuel Genie systems, hydrogen is not even produced until the engine is running. And once the engine stops, the system shuts down. It's safe, it's clean, and it's affordable. Our motto is, cleaning the air we breathe, one car at a time. Today, we'll be talking with a guest here in the studio about his experience with alternative fuels, and I have some information that will make you want to tear your hair out. I promise you that, but I'll tell you the ways to deal with it. Hopefully we can come to terms with everything. We're the Fuel Savers, Fuel Savers Radio, WTAN 1340 AM, Tan Talk Radio, serving the Tampa Bay in sunny Florida. The numbers to call if you have questions or want to be part of the show, 727-441-3000. That's 727-441-3000 for those of you in Pinellas County here in Florida. Anyone else in the U.S.? That's right. Anyone else in the U.S.? If you go to our website, www.fuelgeniesystems.com, Click on the Fuel Savers icon, not that big yellow one to the left that gives you a YouTube, a view of us on the YouTube, but the one right there, it's the black, yellow, and white sign. It says the Fuel Savers. Click that on. It'll take you right to the studio here. You can look right up in our streaming webcam that's on the wall over here and see what's going on actually in the studio. Kind of neat, the technology they have today. Anyway, all of that absolutely, positively free. You don't have to join a club. You don't have to submit your money for any kind of a newsletter or anything else like that. It's all free. We give that to you. So, with me here today in the studio is Bruce Hart. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Barry.
Now, Bruce is an avid alternative fuel wizard, and what he does just amazes me. And I thought it would be interesting and enlightening to bring him on and share his knowledge with us all. So, Bruce, I understand, because we've talked here, I understand that you're doing things with alternative fuels?
Yes, that's right, Barry.
What kind of fuel are we talking about here?
Well, it's used cooking oil, or what some people call waste vegetable oil, or WVO for short.
Waste vegetable oil. Is that like the stuff they take out of liposuction from your waste when they suck it all out there?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could actually use that as well.
Oh, that might be a source of fuel for you here, the plastic surgery centers.
I could use some of it myself.
Hey, who says we're not being efficient here? So let me get this straight. You're actually using vegetable oil as a fuel.
That's right. But you can only use it in a compression ignition engine, also known as a diesel engine. Okay. So for those of you with gasoline engines, I wouldn't try that.
Little thick to go inside a gasoline tank there. Yeah. So do you have to do anything to the oil? I mean, you just take it right out of the fryer and dump it in your car, or what? Well,
you do have to clean it. And
what's that process like?
Well, some people run it through filters like a whole house water filter, that type of a system, which will clean particulate out, but it really won't remove water because, of course, it's a water filter. It's not designed to remove water. It's designed to allow water to pass through. Mm-hmm. So a better way to do that, and what I do, is I use a centrifuge.
Ooh,
and
okay.
A centrifuge definitely removes all the particulate as well as water. And you have to remove the water. You've probably seen a diesel fuel pump at a filling station. It has a filter on the outside, and it's also a water separator. So you have to remove the water. And a centrifuge will do that. And then the fuel...
When you talk about a centrifuge, I'm envisioning one of these things the Iranians have that separates uranium, puts uranium gas into uranium. Are we talking about something like that?
Yeah, when you say centrifuge, people may think of like what you had in high school in your chemistry class.
Yeah,
it's not quite that kind, but it's the same basic idea. It's basically a spinning bowl, if you can imagine a bowl spinning around.
Like a salad spinner?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, yeah. All right, got it, all right.
And the centrifugal force that acts on anything inside of that bowl forces the ingredients to the outside of that centrifuge bowl.
I can see that.
And the heavier things, which would be the water and other particulate, gets forced to the outside because, as you know, oil floats on water.
Exactly.
So the oil's lighter, so that bowl then traps all the water and particulate that has been forced to the outside, and the oil spills over the top, and you get oil without the particulate and water, cleaned oil.
Now, that process, let's say you want to, what do you do? Process like 20 gallons or 10 gallons or a gallon at a time? What is it? Exactly?
Well, you can get a really large centrifuge that could process a lot.
What about you? What do you have?
What I have?
Maytag,
No, I had a centrifuge built, and I worked with a local machinist here in Tampa to build one, and actually thinking about perhaps offering it for sale over the internet, because there are a lot of people I know that are looking for something like this.
You've got something new, or
it's
you're giving up the vegetable oil here?
Well, it can be used to clean the vegetable oil, as well as remove water from biodiesel.
Not good for taking uranium gas and making it.
No, unfortunately, it won't do that.
Got some Arab friends over here that might really like something like that. But anyway, okay, that's right. Doesn't have a use for them now. Okay, so now we take the chicken, the oil. Now, what kind of restaurants are you getting this stuff? Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, what?
Well, you can use different types of oils, but you really want to try to stay away from oils that have a lot of extra things in there that you may not want. So you try to get as clean oil as possible. The other thing is you could, of course, use new virgin oil that has never been used for anything.
Is that virgin olive oil type stuff? That's pretty expensive, though.
Yeah, well, that's just that you actually pay much more for that than you would for petroleum diesel, so why bother?
Yeah, exactly.
Most people would do this because they want to save money.
But you're talking about getting free oil from somewhere.
Right, that's the key. That's how you end up saving money. And most restaurants, if you look at the big chains like the ones that people are familiar with, like McDonald's, etc., they usually have a company that picks up their oil. In fact, they actually sell the oil to these companies. McDonald's is actually making money after they cook your French fries. They make money when they sell oil back to these companies.
Can't blame them for that. It's America.
Yeah, but the small independent restaurants, and typically like Asian restaurants, old Chinese restaurant that's family owned and typically off the beaten path, they don't have the same kind of luxury that the big chains do. And so to have the oil removed, they often have to pay a company to remove it. So if you were to talk to them about that, often they would be more than happy to give you their used oil for free.
So instead of going down the road smelling like fried chicken, you're smelling like kung pao beef, right?
Yes, actually, I've been on 275 in parts of St. Pete where there's nothing around but trees, and I smell McDonald's, and I'm thinking, did they just put a McDonald's in? But no, it's my car.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Now I'm going to have to remember that next time I'm trailing behind you on the road somewhere out there. So you put it in a centrifuge, you take out all the particulate matter, and then that gets filtered into, what, a gallon jug or a plastic container?
The centrifuge I use that we made, it's adjustable, but it works out well. The oil that restaurants buy typically comes in what they call a carboy, and it's like a 4.6 gallon plastic jug.
Okay.
And often you'll get the oil back from a restaurant in that same jug. And I just reuse those.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I reuse those, and I collect it in the jug after I run it through the centrifuge. And from there, you can store it in 55-gallon drums. You can leave it in the jugs, or you can just put it directly into your vehicle's tank. I tend to store it, and then I fill my tank up all at once with a pump.
That's just fantastic, just fantastic. Well, when I heard about it, I just shook my head, but I'm a believer. I've actually seen it work. I've smelled it, and I know what's going on out there. And Bruce also has a fuel genie system on that same vehicle. Now, did you notice any increase in your miles per gallon when you put the fuel genie system on versus what you had before?
I put the fuel genie system on actually when I had when I was running on diesel.
Okay.
And I noticed that I did get an increase in my mileage of, you told me 25%, and you were dead on. I went from 41 miles per gallon at a 75-mile-an-hour cruise up to 52 miles per gallon, which is 25%, right on the nose. And
bravo!
I didn't have to do anything. It just worked. When I started running on the cooking oil, it gives me the same exact result. If I turn off the fuel genie system, it goes back down to about 41 miles to the gallon. I turn it on, and it's back to 52 again. It varies a little bit, but almost consistently right around those numbers.
My, oh, that's pretty impressive, Bruce. I have to say, that's pretty impressive. Bruce Hart here. No relation to me, by the way. We're not even distant. We're not even on the same family tree or even on the same family. As far as we know, anyway. But that's just fantastic. Now, are you having any problems with your car running vegetable oil through it in any way? Is there something, that people might need to know about? I'm thinking there are a lot of listeners out here thinking, wow, when the economic collapse comes and everything shuts down and the banking system's gone and this is gone and, the gas stations aren't spitting out any more fuel, and maybe it might be good to have, a diesel-engined vehicle out here and, my 35, 40 gallons of Kung Pao chicken oil, whatever it is going to be, I'll be able to go when other people aren't. So is it just, you just filter it out, put it in your tank just like normal?
Well, there is, as you were alluding to, there is more to it than that. But first and foremost, of course, you need to have a compression ignition engine, also called the diesel engine. It has to be a diesel. Now, maybe I can give a brief little history of the diesel engine.
The air is yours.
This will help to give some background as to why it's necessary to take some precautions. The diesel engine was, as most people probably know, invented by Rudolf Diesel. And he first introduced it to the public in 1892 at the World's Fair in Paris. And the fuel that he was running it on then was, believe it or not, peanut oil. And he actually experimented with a bunch of different fuels, and the one that he actually had the best performance on was, here's another one you may not believe, coal dust.
Coal dust.
Dust.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And it ran great, but the problem was how do you plumb it? How do you supply the engine
that out, right?
With with a basically a solid? It's not even it's not liquid. So he eventually settled on peanut oil for practicality reasons. And sometime before 1920, petroleum diesel became much more plentiful and, of course, much cheaper. And so when a lot of different manufacturing firms started making diesel engines for sale, they all used the petroleum diesel. And, of course, our modern engines continue that tradition today. And they're designed to run on petroleum diesel. As a matter of fact, now with the ultra-low sulfur diesel, we're finding that it's actually causing some problems because it has less lubrication, and the fuel pumps, et cetera.
Oh, don't get me started about the government and lubrication here. Oh, no.
Yeah, the injection pumps and other various fuel system parts depend on the diesel fuel lubrication properties in that diesel fuel to keep it running smoothly. And with the ultra-low sulfur diesel, we're starting to see problems popping up now from the lack of lubrication. That's one thing that the vegetable oil certainly has no problem with.
Yeah, you ever see limping chickens over the road?
So the modern diesel engines aren't really designed to run on a higher viscosity fuel such as the vegetable oil. So in order to be able to run a modern diesel engine on a fuel like that, you have to decrease the viscosity just to help ensure that you hopefully won't have any problems down the road. There are two ways to decrease that viscosity, and one is to make biodiesel. And
is this biodiesel what we're talking about? What you do, is that biodiesel?
Well, for me personally, not yet, although I'm getting ready to start doing that. But a lot of people do have that confusion that biodiesel is used cooking oil. It isn't quite. Biodiesel comes from cooking oil. It doesn't have to be used cooking oil, but that's what most people use.
Goes through a longer process somehow.
Right. Basically, to make biodiesel, and there's a lot of chemistry involved, but you probably heard triglycerides, the doctor talking about triglycerides, and they're not good for you, and so forth. But basically, that's just a molecule that contains 3 carbon-hydrogen chains that are called ester chains, and there's 3 of them. and they're attached to a glycerol molecule,
Okay.
which is an alcohol molecule. And to make biodiesel, you substitute a methanol or ethanol or some other type of alcohol molecule for that glycerol molecule. And in the process, it breaks those triglyceride chains down to 3 independent ester chains. And when each one of those has their own methanol molecule attached to it, that is in fact biodiesel.
Ah.
So you're breaking that molecule down and you're removing the glycerin. And basically, you're substituting methanol or ethanol. Most people use methanol for that glycerin. And you have to have, so basically you would have like a batch of oil that you would add the methanol to, a measured amount, and you have to do testing to find out exactly how much for each batch, because the oils can be different.
Okay, so biodiesel versus what you're doing right now, why would I go to the extra expense to make and do all the chemical reactions and everything and mix the chemicals with it and everything to get biodiesel as opposed to just putting chicken oil or vegetable oil or something, peanut oil, in a centrifuge, taking out the particulate matter and tossing that into my tank? Why would I choose one? Why would I choose the biodiesel?
That is a good question. And originally when I started, I've run about 100,000 miles on used cooking oil so far. And when I started...
100,000 miles on cooking oil?
Yeah, on a couple different vehicles.
Okay.
And there's a lot of information out there on the internet, and there are forums you can get onto, and they discuss everything right down to, details on everything. And there's all kinds of course, opinions on how you should do it, whether you should use cooking oil or you should use biodiesel, etc. But most people who use the cooking oil as a primary fuel will add a second fuel system. And before, remember, I was talking about lowering the viscosity.
Right.
One way is to make the biodiesel. It removes the glycerin, which is the thick substance that makes it have the high viscosity.
Right.
The other way is to heat the oil. So if you were to, for instance, take a pan and put some cooking oil on the stove, and it's just at room temperature, you notice it's fairly thick. But if you heat that oil up to, say, over 160 degrees Fahrenheit or so, the oil tends to thin out quite a bit and more resemble like water. Well, that's what most people do with a vegetable oil kit, is to add a second fuel system. It uses the heat from the vehicle's cooling system, the radiator and so forth, and it thins out the vegetable oil. But there's some precautions you have to take. You have to have that oil thinned out in order for it to basically go through the fuel injectors and be properly atomized. So it's not like you're worried about...
So the fuel injectors really dictate.
Right, because it's not, people think, oh, well, you don't want to have Crisco in your fuel tank. Well, yeah, that's true. If you were up north in the winter, then you would have that issue. Down here in Florida, we're fortunate we don't really have to worry about that so much. But the whole issue is the highly viscous fuel does not atomize well through the injectors. So you end up with improper atomization. As a result, you have much bigger droplets of fuel that don't tend to combust as well in the combustion chamber. So they don't get burnt. They hang around and form carbon deposits.
So down here in Florida, where we're sunny and warm most of the time, yeah, chicken or vegetable oil, peanut oil, stuff like that is fine inside the vehicle.
In the tank, yes.
When you go up to Michigan or Seattle, stuff like that, Montana, not good.
Yeah, you can still run a system, but then you have to have other accessories on it, like a heater in the fuel tank, heated fuel lines.
Oh, that sounds like a really great idea, a heater in the fuel tank. I can't imagine it. Anything could possibly go wrong there.
Yeah, I would personally not try to do something like this in the north because there's just so many inconveniences around it that make it really not too practical.
So you heard it here first on Fuel Savers Radio. You guys up there in the north, if you want to save fuel, move down here to Florida. You can run on vegetable oil. Yeah, get it free from the restaurants, Okay, Bruce, we're running out of time for this segment here. I want to thank you for, coming here. But please sit here, and if you hear something you just want to hop in on it, just put your words right inside of it here, but we've got a few things we've got to get done on the show here. That's some other parts of the show we want to tell all of our listeners about here.
And you have a call. You have a call on the line.
Oh, and we have a call. And this is
Rick in Tampa.
This is Rick in Tampa. Rick in Tampa, you're on the Fuel Savers.
Hey, guys. How you doing? This is Rick. I just wanted to ask you a question about the presidential election. Now, I noticed that with gasoline, it looks like they use it as a bargaining tool to get elected, because whenever there's, just before a presidential election, if you notice a couple of months before, the gasoline prices unexplainedly go way down, like maybe 15, 20 cents a gallon. And then it stays like that through the election, and then when the election's over, it gradually goes back up again. So it looks like the presidential candidates like to use gasoline prices for a bargaining tool. How do you feel?
I have to agree with you there. From what I've seen, that's true. However, I have spoken this week, Rick, probably, I'd say 17, 18, probably 22 people, different people. These are gas station owners. These are oil transport people. These are fuel farm people. I am definitely trying to get to the bottom of what is causing the gas prices to increase right now, because the price of gas is going down. The price of a barrel of oil is going down. Now, I've heard this explanation, which sounds plausible to me. Way back in October, remember, in Halloween, the price of a barrel of oil was $78.76. That number just sticks in my head because I use it so much. And over the course of the next 60 days, the price of a barrel of oil went up, almost $23 a barrel, but the price of gasoline went down. Now, I theorized, and if you listen to the show back through December, I theorized that they kept artificially the price of gasoline low because they wanted all the retailers to have a fantastic Christmas season out here and let the stock markets be good and let everything end the year on a very high note, so that hopefully that might carry into this coming year that we're in right now. That explanation seems to be plausible with what happened. Of course, hindsight is always 20/20. Yes? I can no longer predict what the price of oil is going to do. I have my suspicions that it's being manipulated on certain government levels. Now, I know the government can tax the oil anywhere from 29 to 40%. I do know that. Now, whether they're raising or lowering the prices, the rates on the oil companies' profits to manipulate the oil prices, I can't say for sure. I've heard people say that. I have no proof whatsoever that that is indeed true. It would also be a reason why the prices fluctuate like they do. Like I say, right now the prices are going down on oil, the barrel of oil. The prices are going down, and the price of gasoline are coming up. Some people say, well, we're just making up for lost time from coming all the way down during that months of November and December. So are they going to go down before the election? I can't say for sure. My prediction, like yours, is yes. However, we've got the Muslim Brotherhood that just took over power in Egypt. 75% of the electorate over there, of the parliament now, has been elected in, and they all members of the Muslim Brotherhood, that wonderful organization over there. You know their motto, kill every Jew on the earth. They are sworn that they are going to put a tax on each barrel of oil, $30 on each barrel of oil that comes through the Suez Canal over there. Now, that could raise the price of oil drastically out here, possibly put it up to $5, maybe even $6 a barrel. You've got the Iranians rattling sabers over there about the Strait of Hormuz. That's never going to happen. Number one, they'd be slicing off their nose to spite their face. They have to put oil through that same strait to get that out. Now, true, most of their customers are Arabs, but doesn't matter. If you're not exporting any oil, you're not bringing in any oil revenue. So why would they do that? Why would they just cut off their only money supply? I mean, the rest of the world has pretty much stopped trading with them for the most part, but they're still getting commerce going in and out of the country and everything. As I understand it, they don't have enough capacity inside the country to refine the gasoline that they need for their vehicles over there. So they have to actually import refined gasoline to come in. I know financially that they're hurting over there, but would they shut down the Strait of Hormuz just to spite the Americans and everybody else? I don't think so. It's not going to happen. So I don't think Strait of Hormuz is going to raise the prices. However, you will hear experts on the television. You will hear experts on the radio say, well, we got the Strait of Hormuz over there. They're going to block that whole thing over there. You got the U.S. Navy. It's bad, bad. That's why the price of gasoline's going up. I wouldn't say that. No, you can't. Now, if that were true, think about this for a second. If that were true, and people were afraid that they were going to close the Strait of Hormuz, they would bid the price of oil up. However, the price of oil is coming down. So the Strait of Hormuz, not a valid reason for me. There are many, many other things out there that could increase the price of oil $20, $30 a barrel from one day to the next. And one of those things is no longer recognizing the U.S. dollar as the currency of reserve for the world. America is the only country that can print money through our Federal Reserve, that little private corporation that's sitting out there that just prints money in the back room and hands it out at embarrassingly low interest rates. But anyway, because of that, we're the only country that can do that. There are dollars in the vaults of just about every bank around the globe because America is the currency reserve. Should other countries rise and fall and their currencies rise and fall, they can go to, in the interim, dollars that they have saved up down there, and they can use dollars as their currency. But there's a handful of countries, China, Russia, Brazil, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. They got together and said, we're tired of the Fed diluting our money supply over here by just pumping money into the economy. We're no longer going to recognize the dollar as the currency of reserve in the world. Now, everybody buys oil in dollars. So if they all of a sudden say, we are no longer going to trade oil in dollars, we're going to trade it in a little basket currency that we put together called the banco, now when we go to buy oil, we're going to have to trade dollars in for bancos. Now we're at their mercy. That right there alone will increase the price of a barrel of oil for us about $15 on a barrel of oil. We're talking about a 42-gallon barrel of oil here. That'll increase it about $15. That would put us right now at about $115 a barrel. That would make gas go up to right around $4, $4.15, $4.20. Who knows what? Anything else out there that might happen, it's just going to go worse from there. So do I see Rick? Still, I don't know if you're hanging in here or not, but don't know if it's going to happen or not before the election. If it does, it's going to have to be totally manipulated by the government. It's going to have to come out somewhere. And if it does drop, I can tell you this, if it does drop, and if Obama wins, right after the election, look out. Gas is going to go through the roof. It's going to go off the top of the skyscrapers out here. So, Rick, I hope I answered your question. I've got to get along with the rest of the show here.
Yeah, sure did. Thank you for that.
You're certainly welcome. Thanks for listening. Spread the word out here. Okay, moving right along here, we have some email that came in over the week, and this is a portion of the show new that we started this year. We read emails from customers coming in. They usually, not customers, but people who questions coming in. Usually they ask questions everybody out here is wondering about, but doesn't have the time to call in or, whatever. Anyway, this one is from Dan Jenkinson in Pennsylvania. Hi, Barry. Listen to your radio show again today and had some questions. One, does your system produce the same volume of HHO? That's hydrogen gas in its monatomic form. Does your system produce the same volume of HHO at 55 miles per hour as it does at idle to compensate for the engine needing more fuel and air at the higher speed? And two, are there any dealers, distributors here in Pennsylvania I can get in contact with? Thanks for your time. Looking forward to the radio show next Saturday. Regards, Dan. I wrote back to Dan. He's already heard this. Dan, thanks for listening in. We're the only radio show on the air that addresses fuel-saving technology, and evidently word is now spread to Pennsylvania. Now, Dan, you didn't mention whether or not you're talking about a gasoline or a diesel engine. They consume their fuels differently, and hydrogen works differently in both of those vehicles there. We use a transducer, pressure transducer, on the intake manifold, directly coming into the intake manifold on diesel engines. And what that does is it turns the system on at a specific PSI inside the intake manifold. Now, diesel engines at idle run lean. That's the governor that governs them. They dictate that that mixture is lean at idle so that when you step on the accelerator, you put fuel directly into the cylinder right there. Now you have the correct amount of air already, and adding fuel to it, you get immediate power. Whereas if you had the same fuel-air ratio at 1,500 RPM as you do at idle, you step on the accelerator, you add more fuel, diesel fuel, into the combustion chamber there, and now you have a very, very rich mixture, and it will actually bog down before it will start to come back up in its correct mixture, and you can start to take off and go. That's from an idle. In fact, older trucks, before they got the governing system right, there's a component of the governor called the droop. And it's basically just a scale. There's very sensitive droops, and there's very non-sensitive droops, high and low droops. Diesel engines have a very high droop engine. It starts off very lean at the idle section, and then as you get to the middle ranges, it's at its richest mixture. And then as you start to go higher up into the RPM, reaching the limits of the RPM, it will restrict fuel going in there so that you will actually lose power and the engine will keep from over-revving. That's how the governor actually works on a diesel engine. So we put a transducer into the intake manifold. It measures boost pressure. Okay? Boost pressure is created by the turbocharger, and at idle, the turbocharger is barely turning. There's hardly any outside air going directly into the cylinders at all at idle on there. So if we added HHO at idle to a very lean configuration, it would make it even leaner, and you would lose even more power than you do sitting in idle at a stoplight. Good thing about it is there's no load on the engine when you're idling. However, when you start off, in 700, 800, 900 RPM now, because the air starts to flow through the engine and flow through the exhaust, it begins to turn the blades in the turbocharger. Now you start to get an increase in boost pressure in the turbocharger, and it pumps more air into the engine. At a certain pressure, we're finding out now it's about 10 psi. We initially thought it was going to be 15, but we're finding out in certain 14-liter engines, 12-liter and 14-liter Cat engines, Caterpillar engines, 10 psi seems to be a more optimal setting than the 15. So we set our transducers at 10 psi now. That means that the truck's got to be going about 35, 40 miles an hour before the system even turns on. The transducer closes the circuit, which closes the circuitry to the generator, and it begins producing hydrogen. So we use a transducer to restrict the production of hydrogen to anything from 10 psi up to 42, 43 psi. So that's when the system works. That compensates for the low amount of fuel and the high amount of air at idle, and introducing hydrogen into that, making it even leaner, making you lose even more power than you normally would. So the answer to your question is yes, we do that on hydrogen vehicles, on diesel vehicles. Gasoline engines, little different animal there. Gasoline engines have a electronic control unit, electronic power unit. That's your car's computer system. And it tries to keep 14.7 to 1, that's air-to-fuel ratio, at all times inside the engine. So at idle, your car's almost taking in no intake from the fresh air, getting no fresh air coming in. But what happens is, as the engine's churning around, the blow-by gases and stuff that go through your cylinder down into the crankcase are recirculated back up through the engine block through ports, and they go into the intake manifold where they're recycled back into the combustion chamber again. So at idle, most of the air is just being recirculated through the engine. You have to actually start moving before that your throttle valve right there, your throttle plate turns and opens up a little bit, starts to let fresh air come in, and you have actually fresh air coming in. So we use a vacuum switch on gasoline engine powered vehicles. Now we use the vacuum switch basically as a safety device, because remember, this is still hydrogen on demand. This is state-of-the-art stuff in the hydrogen fuel technology today. Okay, the system works only once the gasoline engine is running and a vacuum is established. The vacuum closest the switch from the vacuum switch, and that energizes the circuit to begin producing hydrogen. No hydrogen is produced unless the engine is running, and once the engine's turned off, the hydrogen production stops. There is never any hydrogen stored in the vehicle whatsoever. So, at lower RPMs, in vehicles, in gasoline vehicles, it's different configuration. There's not more gasoline going in or more air going into a car at lower RPMs when it's sitting at idle. The computer kind of takes care of that. However, we are injecting HHO during that time, and your O2 sensors in the stream coming out of your exhaust pipes there, the O2 sensors will sense more oxygen and hydrogen coming out. They won't sense any hydrogen, but they'll sense the oxygen coming out. That will cause a check engine light to come on because the computers, the O2 sensors are going to say, hey, I'm really, really lean back here. I got a lot of hydrogen coming through. I got a lot of oxygen coming through here. Computer will try and compensate, but because the RPMs are there and other parameters that it has to check and make sure, it gets confused and it turns on a check engine light. So we use something called a Volo chip, which is an interactive computer chip. Hooks up behind your OBD port. It's fully interactive. It just needs to be set and acclimated to your car one time, and it takes care of everything else after that. That then regulates the amount of HHO, or not doesn't regulate the amount of HHO, but compensates electricity, the voltage from the O2 sensors going into the computers, actually fools the computer into thinking that everything is fine and hunky-dory, even though there's a very lean, not a very lean, but a leaner configuration inside the tailpipes there. So, Dan, I appreciate the call. Sorry if I got a little technical there for you, but you sounded like you were a technical person when you wrote the letter inside here and that you know a lot about it. So, thank you for listening to the show. Spread the word about us out there. If you want to call in, anytime you're ready, call right on in here. Next letter real quick is from Tom Ross in Tempe, Arizona. I have an F-250 diesel truck. I get 12 miles per gallon in town and about 14 on the road. How much of an increase can I expect with your system on my truck? I'd like to get one and see how it works. If it does, I'd like to become an authorized installer. So, Bruce, you can answer this yourself. What kind of an increase do you get with a diesel-powered vehicle and a fuel saver, fuel genie system on there?
Well, Barry, as I said before, in my vehicle, I got, I think it was 24.9%, so 25%.
We just right over the eyeball there. That sounds about right to me.
And when I turn it off, it goes right back down to 41 miles per gallon. I turn it on, it comes back to 52 again.
Well, Tom Ross in Tempe, Arizona, if you're listening to that, that is what you're probably going to be experiencing in your vehicle there, okay? So about a 20-25%. Now, if you'd like to, and now we don't sell to the public. And that's not something we would do. But if you're interested in becoming an installer, what we can do is get a kit out to you with the instructions and everything else you need to become an installer. Now, you'll pay a retail price for that. If you become an installer, then the price will be put back down to the installer's price. Once you have become an installer, you have to go through classes and things like that. But, we will work with you. We'll make it so that this information, this technology, gets out to as many people as we possibly can get out here. Okay? So we've got some more emails, but I've got something else that's just going to absolutely make your hair fall out. You're gonna spit nickels when you hear this. I mentioned this before last year on one of our shows last year. The government, in concert with the automobile industry, in concert with the big brother computer industry that's coming out here. I don't know if you heard the last little things coming out from Google recently, but if you Google anything on the Internet now, Google is going to begin amassing all kinds of data information. And they're putting it into something called controller area networks. And it's basically little nodes of information all over the place. And because it's just too much information to, bank and store in one place, so they start storing it places all over the place. You'd be surprised. They also have the capability now of going into your computer and storing stuff there you don't even know about it when you're online. That's fair dinkum. You don't even know about it. They're using your computer as a storage unit. But that's another story. Last year, I mentioned to you about how all 2013 vehicles would be equipped with something called the new OBD3 CAN computer system. OBD stands for Onboard Diagnostic. 1986, they came out with the OBD System 1. That's a little plug. You just stick a diagnostic tool inside under your dashboard, and it gave you what problems might be going on in your car. In 1996, they came out with the upgraded version, the OBD2 version of all of that. A little bit more sophisticated, a lot more parameters for the mechanics and stuff to look inside the little diagnostic computers when they hook in. Now we come to 2013 and the advent and installation of, ta-da, OBD3, Big Brother. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at something, this is directly off the internet. It's zone.ni.com. If you want to go check it out yourself here, see, I got the papers sitting right here in front of me. I'm reading directly from this now. The CAN computers, a little bit of CAN computer history, and I'm going to have to go through this a little faster. We ran over in the last segment here. But CAN computers was originally developed Bosch originally developed the controller area network in 1985 for in-vehicle networks. In other words, they wanted to take information from the fuel injectors and from the oil pressure sensor and from the gasoline pressure sensor and from the injectors and everything else. But they wanted to store them in little tiny nodules, and so that they could access the data a lot faster and make everything a lot more responsive. So they came up with this controller area network inside your car. If you lift your hood up, you'll probably see somewhere under there 3 or 4 thick bundles of wire going to 3 or 4 different boxes. Those little boxes are your different nodes for the CAN computer system, controller area network, okay? Now, what's different about this controller area network is not only is it the fastest response to anything going on inside your car. I mean, the reaction times and the talk times between these nodes here is just unbelievably fast. They are now hooked up to a transmitter. Now, this transmitter transmits data out into the ether. There's nothing set up right now at this second officially. There's nothing set up officially right now for this, but what's going to happen in the next couple of years? This is how the government works. They build the structure, and it's sort of flimsy and behind the scenes and under the table and never tell you about anything. And then once the structure and everything's in place, then they implement the laws because the structure's already there. So what they're doing now with the structure is a CAN computer. This CAN computer, if they want to, they'll be able to type in your computer's ID number. They'll get, because it's on record. They can look up your name or anything like that. They'll be able to look up at a highway, say Interstate 95, and at a particular little zone right there, and look across their screen and see the dots going by left and right. They just click on one particular dot, and if you happen to be going 75 in a 60 zone, they left-click the button right there, and boom, you automatically get a ticket. You have no say in the matter. There's nothing you can do about it. You'll get a ticket in the mail. It's electronic. It's GPS. It's fact. You can't dispute it. Now, you can't say, I wasn't driving the car that day. I don't know what happened. My dog stole the car. Doesn't matter. You will be responsible for whoever drives that car. The ticket will be issued for the car, not who's in it. So the whole thing about, well, I wasn't driving the car, that's not going to have any effect whatsoever. The purpose of all of this is to control us, control our movements, where you go. You might go visit a friend who's maybe not got the stellar Citizen of the Year award right there, and 3 or 4 days later, somebody might go and bust him. The cops might go inside their next. Who's been visiting this guy here in the past 2 weeks? And they'll look and see, oh, your computer on your car, you were there, so now you're going to have the police over there at your house looking and seeing what you're doing. If you have a parking ticket, you don't pay it, boom, they'll turn your car off. If you're, somewhere where you shouldn't be, you're parked illegally, something like that, go in and start your car rather than give you a ticket, boom, they turn your car off. All kinds of things will begin to happen to you. And once they disable your car, you have to get it towed into the shop so that the computer can be rebooted and brought back up. So if you do the tiniest little thing wrong, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it big, and there's nothing you can do for it. What is all this for? control. They want to stop the movement of people all around the country. We're mobile. Every single day, in any one particular minute, there's like 6 million people in the air above us in airplanes. Think about how many people are on the roads right now. Probably 50, 60 million people are on the road right now traveling out there. The government doesn't like that. They can't control it. They don't know what can happen. And then when you don't know about something, that's when crises happen. So the government, in order to assuage all of that anxiety we're feeling as a society out here about what's coming next, help us, please, Mr. Government. Please, please help us. They're coming out with these new computers to save us all of the anxiety we have when we get into cars. What a great country we live in. Anyway, that's coming up. 2013 cars. My recommendation, do not buy a 2013 car. My recommendation is buy yourself anything up to a 2012, 2011 car. Get yourself a nice fuel saving system. If it's not a fuel genie system and you can find some other hydrogen generation system out there that's really good and works for you, go do that. Like Bruce Hart over here, sitting here, go get some chicken oil. Get yourself a little centrifuge. You know, from what I understand, that little salad shooter thing sounded pretty good at trying to make things happen there. But the thing about it is, you need to become proactive now because gasoline is going to go just through the roof. Rick's sitting there. I don't know what we're going to be doing looking here. It's election year. Is gas going to go up? It's going to go down? We have experts all over the place out here saying it's going to hit $4 a gallon by the end of May. I don't know. One time I thought I did know. I thought I could predict it all. But all of the indicators that I used and everybody else uses out here in Economics 101 to predict whether things will rise in price or fall in price, it's upside down. Everything is upside down. Nothing makes any sense anymore to us out here. So cross your fingers. Hope that the price of gas goes down because it is an election year. But in the meantime, begin to prepare, my friends. Begin to prepare. If you want to go with alternative fuels, do that. If you want to start putting hydrogen inside your vehicles, go do that. If you want to downsize to smaller cars, now's the time. The main thing is, if you get a 2013 vehicle, you are going to be sitting under Big Brother's nose, okay? They're not going to be able to escape. So maybe by 2015, if the country lasts that long, by 2015, when you get in your car and open it up, Big Brother's going to know that you're getting in your car. Yeah? They're going to know everything about you. They're going to know where you go. When you go to the store and you swipe a little credit card, they say, oh, look, here's Bruce Hart. He went over to the Bok Choy restaurant here. What's he doing over there? Oh, he's getting that illegal vegetable oil for his car. He can't do that. We got to get taxes on that stuff. They'll send the cops right out to him. Before he even gets home, he'll be behind bars before the end of the night's out. Conjecture, I know. Possible? Yes, it is possible 100%. So anyway, that's about it for the show. I'm going to talk more about these canned computers because I have a lot more information to do, but we're running a little short on time right here and have some other things that I want to get out here. I'd like to thank you, first of all, Bruce, for being here today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
So informative. People out there, I'm sure somebody's going to say, what? Wow, vegetable oil, huh? Peanut oil. If that starts 2, 3, or even 4 people out here to start to tinker with it and figure out what to do. Now, if somebody wants to get hold of, you don't want to put your number out over the air, I'm sure, but if somebody wants to call you and find out exactly what it is you're doing, are you available for that? You want to?
Sure. Actually, I have a website if they want to.
Please.
But, yeah, it's called Florida Innovative Energy Solutions. So.
Okay. Alrighty then, Florida Innovative Solutions. All right, real quick shout out here. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by and listening today. Give a shout out to Regal Cars on the corner of Drew Street and Northeast Coastman Road and Ramsey Automotive on Almerton Road. These are the 2 dealerships we have now who will pay to have a fuel genie system installed in the vehicle you buy from them. Twisted Metal Off-Road in Tampa near Ybor City and HHOinformationsystems.com. This is Barry Hart saying drive safe, drive cheap.